The Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment is a very important initiative that was established a few years ago. It is a coalition consisting of more than 600 research organizations, universities for instance, but also research funders and other types of organizations in the research system. So these organizations have jointly recognized that the way in which we do research assessment needs to be improved. There are in total 10 commitments. There are 3 of those that perhaps I could highlight because I think these are perhaps the most important ones. In assessment of research, we should take a broad perspective. So we should not only look, for instance, at the publications of researchers and research units. Publications are important, very important, but they're not the only thing that matters. There are many more things that researchers do and that research units do, and these other things should also be considered in research assessments. There is, for instance, all the work that many researchers do to connect their research to society, to societal questions, to bring it to the attention to stakeholders in society. This is very important work. There's all the efforts that many researchers make to practice open science. There is supervision of students, for instance. This is all very important work, and in the past that was not very visible. And nowadays, the COARA agreement is really emphasizing the need to give more visibility to these types of activities. Another commitment that I believe is really important is the recognition that doing research assessment in a responsible way means that we cannot just rely on numbers or indicators or metrics. In many places in the world, we have relied extensively over the past 2 decades on statistics that, for instance, count the number of publications, count the number of citations. There are many other things for which actually such statistics cannot be compiled because there's no data that is easily available. And these things typically were left out of evaluations. So what the COARA agreement, what it says, is that we need to make sure that evaluations are primarily done in a qualitative way. Peer reviewers, human experts, should be in the lead. They are responsible for doing the evaluations, and these evaluations can then be supported by quantitative indicators. And then there's one more commitment that I would like to highlight because I feel it's so important. And this is a commitment about making sure that university rankings do not influence the way in which internally within universities we perform assessments. So university rankings are quite controversial and many people believe that they actually cause quite a lot of problems in the research system. What the COARA agreement, what it says is that we should at least make sure that the way in which we perform evaluations internally of academics, of researchers, but also of departments and faculties, and the way we evaluate all these units should not be dictated by the parameters that are highlighted in university rankings. There are a number of major global university rankings. The Leiden Ranking is one such ranking, but it is different from these other rankings in 2 important ways. Other rankings claim that they can provide insight into the overall performance of universities, which we believe is actually not possible. And we on purpose focus only on certain dimensions of the performance of universities, those dimensions that can be made visible through bibliometric statistics like publications, information about the citations to these publications. That's the type of data that we focus on. What you often see in university rankings is that they provide one single list for which they then say, this shows which universities are the best in the world. Number 1, number 2, number 3. We don't do that. We actually provide a number of separate lists, and each of these lists provides information about one particular aspect. For instance, we have a list that shows the overall volume of publications produced by a university. We have a list that provides information about the citation impact of these publications. We have a list about gender diversity in the authors of the publication of a university. And we leave it to the users of our ranking to decide what matters to them and what they find useful. And we are not going to take it all together and to provide one single overall ranking, because we believe that is bad practice. Traditionally, the Leiden ranking was based on data that was closed. So that means that the data on which my team produced the Leiden ranking, that data could not be accessed by people outside the team. So we provided statistics. These statistics we made publicly available. But if you saw something in these statistics that you found interesting and you wanted to know more about it and you wanted to take a look at the underlying data, that actually was not possible because that data was obtained from a proprietary database and we were not allowed actually to make that data publicly available. And recently this has changed. We now have the Leiden Ranking Open Edition. The Leiden Ranking Open Edition is based on data that is fully open. It's data from a database called OpenAlex. And this means that we are providing not only the statistics about what universities are doing, how they are performing, but we also provide all the underlying data. There is a long tradition in the research system of using all kinds of information about research to produce indicators, metrics, that for instance can be used to do research assessment or that can be used to make all kinds of policy decisions. All this information is made available only through databases that are of a proprietary nature. So to access this data, you need to have a subscription to a database and only then you can make use of the data. And even in those cases, the way in which you can use the data is still actually quite limited. Making important decisions about the careers of people or decisions about the strategic direction in which research organizations are moving, making such decisions based on black box indicators is actually quite dangerous. And the Barcelona Declaration is making the argument that this practice is not acceptable and that we need to move to a different way of working with indicators and metrics, a way in which openness and transparency are always given top priority, so that we can always make, when we use indicators, when we use metrics, we can always see what is behind it. We can always question the numbers. We can have debates about what the numbers actually mean. The Barcelona Declaration on Open Research Information was published in April 2024. At that time, there were about 40 organizations globally, universities, research funders and other organizations that had all signed the declaration. So they all made a commitment to openness of research information. They made a promise that they would, in the future, work only with research information that is fully open. The number of signatories keeps increasing, it keeps growing. So at the moment, for instance, a number of months after the launch of the declaration, we already have more than 70 signatories. And this also includes, of course, Sorbonne University. Sorbonne University is a university that I admire because of their really strong stance on issues related to open research information. So Sorbonne University was the first university that publicly made a decision to cancel one of the well-known subscription-based proprietary databases and to actually replace it by a fully open alternative, the OpenAlex database, which I think was a really brave move. Change in research assessment is a process that takes a long time. It's a culture change. And I think we need to recognize that this culture change is by necessity something that is very complex. It requires a lot of coordination between different actors, and therefore it cannot happen overnight. We need more and more people in the research system. Can be researchers, can be research managers, can be people in leadership positions. We need people that are willing to champion these assessment reforms, this culture change. So people that are willing to step forward and to say, we now really need to move forward. And we need to be brave, we need to be courageous to make this happen. And I hope that more and more people will actually join this movement and indeed champion research assessment reform. And this will definitely help to accelerate the culture change.